Lights up, mic on. Time to meet the minds behind the magic. This is Know Your Dev. Let the story begin. Yo, yo, yeah, yo, 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 yo. Know your dev. Know your dev. Let the world see who they are. Know your dev. Know your dev. Every builder is a star. Step inside the show. Where the big ideas grow. Know your dad. Know your dad. Let's go. Let's go. Beat drops, hearts pop. Here's the moment we start. Where creators share the map of how they follow their heart. From a spark to a plan, from the plan to the code. Every dev has a journey. Every journey has a road. We explore, we adore, bringing stories to light. Let the kids and the dreamers feel the power of the night. It's the show where imagination meets the truth they tell. Welcome in, grab a seat. This is Know Your Dad. Let the world see who they are. Know your dad, know your dad. Every builder is a star. Step inside the show. There where the big ideas grow. Know your dad, know your dad. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Old school rhythm with a big cartoon grin. Every Sunday we unlock where the legends begin. We ask how, we ask why, we uncover the climb. From the first tiny sketch to the moment it shines. Kids listening at home get inspired for real. To create, to imagine, to invent what they feel. Cause the future gets built by the dreamers who dare. And on KYD, every dream gets shared. Know your dad. Know your dad. Let the world see who they are. Know your dad. Know your dad. Every builder is a star. Step inside the show. Where the big ideas grow. Know your dad. Know your dad. Let's go. Let's go.
Great morning, beautiful people of the Ledger. How the hell are you doing today? Stone, can you hear me? Yes, you are there.
Excellent.
There we go.
What's up? Good morning, buddy.
Great morning. We're gonna give a chance for these people to come up so we can start with this. But before we get started, I wanted to say a few things, something quick. We don't just build in the light, right? We build through the pressure. The transparency isn't weakness; it's confidence. When a builder is willing to step forward and answer real questions, that's strength. Show up, ask smart questions, support with intention. Great community are not just loud, they're informed. So today, this Sunday, we level up, man. We got our main man in the building already, waiting for the mic to be requested. Let's see, where are we? Where are we? Jay, are you having issues? Let me go ahead and click this invite real quick. And then we have your other accounts too. I'm gonna bring them all up. Hey, my man Stone, how you doing today, man? How's this week treating you so far?
The weekend? Well, today's the start of the week. I think it's gonna be amazing. My weekend was pretty awesome. I did take a little bit of time off of the internet, which was really odd for me, but it's good. Made some new friends and have a bunch of things set up for next week. How about you? How was your weekend?
Man, my weekend was busy as can be, and I like it. I'm having a lot of fun. There's a lot of things going on in my industry and also in the type of industry I'm in. So I'm always learning something new every single day. So I'm thankful that I'm able to do this. So I appreciate you all for being here. I think we're gonna give the mic to Jay. Welcome to the show, my friend. Thank you for assisting KYD today.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I see you, Stone. Angel Uga Tiger, Xmojis. I love that program. I want to talk about that. But good morning, everybody that's here. We're so honored for the reboot of this. For those that missed it before, we had some issues on the back end and couldn't actually make it. So Angel was gracious enough to say, "Hey, let's do this again. It's important enough." So thank you so much. Uh,
My pleasure, man. Thank you for again for showing up. I appreciate you. Without you, today's show is not possible. So I appreciate that. Stone, any words before we get that go?
Nope, I'm ready to hear all about FML and what they're transitioning into. Shout out Jay, Shauna, the whole FML crew. Looking forward. Actually, you know what I'm really looking forward to hearing is some cheap rack space. Get into the weeds of. uh, Actually, we're not doing that, are we? I'm sorry. We're gonna find out his backstory. But my
Exactly.
bad, my
Yo,
bad,
there's
my
gonna
bad.
be a chance for that. There's gonna be a chance for that. But I wanna kind of remember this, Jay, right? This is going to be a recorded space, and I want you to think of this as your digital profile for anybody looking to do business with you in the future or anybody looking to learn more about FML in the future. So you can just send them this link and they'll be able to hear your story. So whenever I'm asking you this question, keep that in mind that you're talking to hundreds of thousands or millions of people in the future, as you know, they would want to come and hear your story before they actually start anything with you, or even after they want to learn a little bit more about yourself. So just keep that in mind. All right.
yeah, this is exciting.
All right.
I
No,
really like the format, by the way.
beautiful. Thank you, man. Listen, let's get right into it. Let's go into the identity and the background, right? What is your real world professional background, an area of expertise? Actually, no. Let's go one step back. Who are you? What's your name, my friend?
So I posted it to the top. My name is Justin Wynn. A little bit about my background. Um, we'll just keep it vocationally. But I really jumped into my professional career. I did a lot, like most everybody, you know. My first job was at 13 years old, peeling gum off of the bottom of chairs at a athletic club that was within walking distance of my house because my folks believed that you got to start working really really young, and I was happy to do it. One of those things, always walking around with money in your pocket, feels good. End of day hard work, kind of where it all starts. And then just kind of worked my way through remedial jobs. I think the best I ever did, I was a assistant manager at the headquarters store for Hollywood Video back in the days when, Be Kind and Rewind. So, move forward where I finally realized in the late 90s that I probably should get serious about life and career. And I started in uh, AutoCAD doing remedial drawings um, and charting out cartography with Esri. So really started grooving in that type of space where I was what I call a CAD monkey. And all you do is draw a bunch of lines and circles. You make them different line types, line weights, and different colors, and they mean something specific in the real world. But in the end, it's just drawing on 11 by 17 sheets of paper today. Back then, it was very large sheets of paper, but they don't really use that anymore. And really became proficient in three specific programs. One of Autodesk's AutoCAD. It's kind of like in today's world when people talk about AutoCAD or AI generated, we use those terms indiscriminately. Like I'm going to go make a Xerox, although Xerox is a specific company, and what somebody's actually making is a photocopy on a Casio machine. So it's interesting. We can jump in a little bit about that later, but really kind of came into a situation where I was offered a position because I was at a mastery level for Autodesk AutoCAD, um, Bentley's MicroStation or UStation if you're a user, and the Esri suite, which is basically the digitization of geography and really used in utility. And I got just by the work there a nod and headhunted by a large company called M&W Group and CH2M Hill. And they're the top of the probably number 1 to 3 engineering platforms. CH2M Hill is common number one or two. So it's engineering corporations and platforms on Earth. They do all of the design and development for the most complex build projects. Another one is Turner. Um, but they were doing refit of an existing factory at Intel. That's the Intel Inside, the semiconductor chip manufacturers. And so I started working out there just as a senior developer, not the way that we think of developers in Web3 as people doing code and things like that. Sometimes we use dev in this space as a founder's acronym, even though they've never touched code or done anything like this before. But coming into the vocational aspect, I realized pretty quickly that even though I kind of had the dream job, I was in the show, if you will, as far as engineering. You don't get to be much higher than at a place like Intel if you're doing development work for what they actually do. And I learned there something that was in the back of my mind early on in life, and that is I hadn't considered that I actually might swing one way or the other in between being an individual contributor or a leader slash manager. And at the end of the work days, I was going home just wiped out and exhausted. And it's because I was behind a computer all day, and only talking to people when I had to, um, when I had to consult with them for my particular tasks, and really took an opportunity when they needed. It was a critical situation. And I can unpack this a little bit how I actually got into what led me to crypto. Um, but I
So
took
if you
an
want,
up.
let's do a little bit
Yeah,
of a back and forward, just because
sure.
there's some things that I want to ask you in between, right? And
Yeah, go for it.
honestly, it already started interesting. I want to give you the mic and just sit back, but I want to kind of also, give you some other stuff.
Brother, I'm following your lead. You ask
My friend.
away, man. Let
So
get
so
to know.
okay, so the one that I think you already answered was what industry have you actually worked prior to FML? So then, since that it's answered already, now have you ever built or managed any businesses before FML?
Several. Yeah. So before FML, and up top you can see a little bit. This is a what I posted up there is just an excerpt from a 40-page prospectus that I wrote for Gavin Newsom and his office for the state of California. I wrote that in early 2024, published it in July, and I sit atop a $30 million initiative that's in flight right now. Oftentimes, I'll be in the middle of an FML development meeting with my camera on, and behind me, so I'm sitting at my normal desk with FML, and behind me is my workstation for work. And I'll have to get up in the middle of it because I'll get an email or somebody will ping me. So, what I posted, I'm actually executing. So, not only was it a competitive authorship to compete to get the position to run it, but I actually was awarded it, executed it, and we are picking of three vendors right now. It's all public information, so
Yeah,
nothing that I'm sharing at this particular point is confidential. But yeah, so what companies corporations, I've had five personal entrepreneurial endeavors, saw moderate success in all of them, felt like a slave, and I didn't have a partner at the time or a support system that was really behind it. So it was all individual. And I realized that even to be successful in something like that, it was eventually going to take full time. And I didn't have the support there. So in my beginnings of standing up our own company that would be under the banner of my name, yeah, saw great success. What I really, or I should say, moderate success, where I saw really great success and my career took off, was in the corporate world. And I was both at Intel and then headhunted from Intel by Nike at Nike in their technology division. So this is Nike IT. Um, global footprint in over 150 countries with web access, multiple interfaces, changing regulatory environments, just an absolute massive footprint. And I was one of three in the company that architected and ran the entire global footprint for Nike relative to any kinds of changes to it, upgrades, additions, or remediations from it. So my career, that's when I learned when I was at Intel doing a lot of CAD, and I was offered a position of leadership at Intel, um, which was really scary, right? Because I didn't have a whole lot of that background. Although I did go back to school, so at the time that I was offered the leadership, I didn't even have my undergraduate degree. I had just worked my way up on talent to get into that environment just on my skill set alone. And who they saw in me and what I was spending a lot of my time with, they promoted me. And that's when I learned that my actual skill set is in leadership, organizational management, and really taking care of people while at the same time keeping your eyes on the critical details for whatever job that you're doing. At this particular moment, it was semiconductor.
Well, you
So,
just answered parts of my next question,
okay.
which was what specific skills do you actually bring personally to FML? But
That's a
continue.
really that's a really great question. So I would tell everybody if it comes to code or the technical backend of infrastructure, like what servers do what switches do what, from that detail level, that's not me. When I was in semiconductor, same thing. I said, if you're looking for somebody who came up academically through the sciences side, right? So a master's in science, a bachelor's in science, engineering, those types of things. I don't have that. I have the arts side. That's the leadership, the human side. Now, if you look at when you graduate, whether it's with your undergrad or master's degree, a lot of the same information is they're identical. It's just what courses that you took would qualify you for, even at the earliest level, an associate of sciences, which I would recommend everybody do, versus an associate of arts, because they're almost exactly the same classes. Just the class number you choose will determine what's on your diploma, right? The piece of paper at the end. So what I really learned in the beginning was my skill set, my interest, who God made me to be, was more of a leader. I'm not the developer. So for everybody down there that thinks, man, I don't know code, so I can't do anything in this space, that's not true. You just have to know coders, right? Or hire
Yeah.
them or go learn. But yeah, so my background is not heavy in the engineering or code level. However, that there's a part of me that feels very thankful because that's where my curiosity resides. I want to know how things work. I love to take things apart. I just don't want to be an individual contributor. So
Hey,
even though, yeah, keep going.
let's veer off a little bit there, since you're
Hmm.
mentioning the things that you personally have, right? So I wanted to actually go a little bit back in time, right? Take me
Hmm.
back to where you were growing up, and how this values were basically, where did they came from, right? Who was your role model? I want to take take that time machine, and tell me, where
Sure.
were you growing up?
So I was raised in a really rough environment, and I don't mean rough like street rough.
Yeah.
Um, we were at our house was so far remote in a valley. There was a dirt road. Snow was on it 9 months out of the year. There were certain sections in our house within eyesight from our house that the snow never melted. We were over 8,500 feet where I grew up. It was in the deep into the Colorado Rockies, and the closest neighbor was so far away that if we fired a sawed-off shotgun in a valley, they couldn't hear it. We were miles and miles and miles down a treacherous dirt road before you could even get to our first neighbor.
Wow.
That environment, way up there, growing up, playing in abandoned cave mines. Um, if you're geographically, you want to know where I'm talking about. We lived above Central City in Blackhawk in Colorado, and went to it was a two different counties fed into one school. It was kindergarten through 12th grade under one roof. Our house telephone line, just to give people a perspective, was on something called a party line. So there was about 20 houses or so that we all shared a phone line, one digit off at the end. So when somebody would call us, the entire line would ring. But you could tell based on the ring whose house was being called. And it was very interesting because there was only one house that lived further out down this dirt road than us, and the Larsons. And when somebody would call the Larsons, my mom would answer. And I remember this as a child. My mom would answer up there because this was a different world, right? She'd say, "Oh, no, they just ran into town. I saw them drive by." So they drove by, the front of our house, and my mom would answer and say, "Hey, they're not even at home. They're in town." And I grew up in such a remote area that everybody knew everybody. And when I say two counties in the school, Gilpin Eagles in Gilpin County, Colorado, it's still there, and it's still kindergarten through 12th grade underneath one roof, which is, of I thought that's the way it was. And you don't know any different until you get outside of what you're grown up in. But where I started was you had kindergarten in one class, and across the hall was first grade. So then you go across the hall to first grade, then you come back on the other side. So you had odd classes on odd grades on one side, even grades on the other side. And you just worked your way all the way up until you got into seventh grade. And then you go past all the administrative and get to the other side of the school where it was eighth grade through 12th grade. They were the big kids, the adults that I never got to meet. So I grew up really remote. The people that raised me were the people who didn't want to rely on anybody else. They didn't want to be talked to by anybody else. They didn't like outsiders. The closest thing that I could describe them as hillbilly savants that they only went into town, they only went into Denver, which was a little over 75 miles away down, mountain roads, uh, 2-lane highway, cliff on one side, sheer rock face on the other in a lot of places, dead man corner, people die there all the time. Road shuts down due to snow every single year. But these people that raised me, they had an entire ecosystem of commerce that never dealt with money. They did use money, but everything was barter. Everything from the greatest form of currency that was up in that area was this great family, and they were potters. And they were some of the most well off because the wife and the husband were master potters. And I mean like pottery. So even still, yeah, even still to this day, um, we have, I don't, but it's with my origin family, my parents, pottery from the mountains that was fired in the early 70s. And it's just so strong and amazing stuff that it's the only way you're going to get rid of it is destroy it or throw it away. So it was those people that really raised me and kind of put the core in me of freedom, right? And human rights and individual rights and property rights and the importance to shoot a gun and hunting and fishing and living off the land and being self-sustaining. So that was built into me as normal. And then we moved to the city in 1984 in Oregon, and it was a culture shock. First moving there, we had 2 inches of snow in a snowstorm, and they closed the whole city. It was like a national emergency. And I had just come out of, about 8,600 feet with snow drifts that covered a house. And they never closed school up there. So that transition was just really different to come out of a place where we didn't really have a TV. It wasn't that kind of an environment, to a place where, video games and everything in the city, covered with pavement. It was a rough transition. But my heroes at the time were Walt Disney in the world because I was fascinated as a little kid. I went to Disneyland, and my favorite part out of all of it was learning about him and knowing that he was actually a city engineer, and all of the engineering that went into Disneyland and more so Disney World. Um, to make it run. It's a like a functioning society in and of itself. And that's where I really got the spark of doing things like following after people that were, professional RC car drivers. And these were kids that I could relate to in their late teens, and it was all about the engineering. I would say in my childhood, my biggest hero was my dad, and just watching and knowing his story of what he had built himself up as a small boy working on a farm as an orphan, and then adopted in Nebraska, working himself up to one of the world renowned financial advisors for Wells Fargo, and just kind of hearing the story about how he started in life and got out of the little town called McCook, Nebraska, that coming off of the freeway, last time I drove by there, it was a flashing yellow light for a turnoff to this little town. They had one street light in it, and Main Street still to this day is brick on the road versus asphalt. Really, really small, humble beginnings. And he ascended to having assets under management of more than a third of the total country's GDPs combined. And so seeing that, that as an arc of somebody's career, again, I guess I would say I'm absolutely uniquely blessed because in me, I don't see failure as anything other than an individual choice. I I don't see freedom and leave me the F alone as a good talking point or something we need to get returned to. I was raised in it and I've seen it stripped from us. Um, so, my heroes are the hillbillies in the Colorado Rockies that were the descendants of the miners. And yeah, so there you go.
I was going to ask you about failures, right? What in your past, what type of failures or what failures in your past has taught you the most about the execution?
Well, failure, I guess it would depend on how you look at it, but I'll use failure from the way most people do as a negative, right? Most people see if I fail, it was a negative, and hope to God I learned something from it. Well, I'm about 5 feet. I mean, 6 feet tall. So if I fall flat on my face, this is how I look at failure. If I fall flat on my face, I make about 6 feet of forward progress. As long as I get up and keep going, right? So it's called failing forward. There's a book about it. That's the title of it. I would recommend everybody read it because we're all just going through life and we're learning. Here's from the lens of failures, and I will tell you, this will be very shocking to a lot of people, but to me, it's old hat, right? So for a lot of you, that what I'm about to say next um, is very incendiary, and I would say that I have failed more than any or most of you have possibly even dreamed of failing. When my son was born, he's a founding member of FML. He's out driving truck, saving his money, stacking his bags, no rent, no overhead, no car payment, making six figures a year, putting it all into XRP, utility tokens, and FML, just driving and grinding, right? It's beautiful. When my son was 4 months old, I walked myself into a jail in Vancouver, Washington. Zip code ended in 666. And here's the failure story. When he was born, I was selling cars for the number four Toyota dealership in the nation, Thomas and Toyota, off of McLaughlin Boulevard in uh, East Portland, Oregon. And we had an ice storm. So paint the picture in your mind. I'm a car salesman right at the point where my wife is ready to pop, 9.5 or 9 months pregnant. My son is born. We go into, and when he was born, it was a record ice storm in the Pacific Northwest. Nobody drove for days because it was like an inch and a half of ice covered everything. Put down power lines. I mean, you name it. I mean, it was, like I said, it was a record ice storm. And he was born in the middle of it. And that shut down the car scene that whole summer. I mean, that whole winter. I wasn't selling any cars. And like I said earlier, I had been uh, working as a assistant manager at Hollywood Video, and we were robbed at, at that store, and had several jurisdictions come in. I won't unpack that, but I was a manager working in the back when we were robbed, so I got to see the investigative side, the accusation side. I hadn't been in any real trouble or anything like that, but I got accused of being a part of it because the person who did it essentially got away with it. And what that taught me at that time, was very dangerous, is that, oh my God, and this is what a detective told me. She goes, if there was any crime, now she was trying to get me to confess to something I didn't do, but if there was any crime in the world that I would do, it would be robbery because you could get away with it one time, and as long as they didn't catch you in the act and you didn't leave any fingerprints behind, you're going to get away scot free. That's what they said. And so roll forward 4 years from that moment, that experience. I have no income. I stupidly chose to rent an apartment in the most expensive area of Portland. It's called Lake Oswego. So I could be close to the where I was selling cars. Um, and I couldn't afford the rent. We were getting evicted, and my son was like 3 months old. And I made a choice at that particular time. Now, let me say this for those of you that are listening, if being an idiot was an art form, you are listening to Michelangelo. I kid you not. I made a choice to walk into a Hollywood Video because, of course, being an assistant manager, I knew all their security protocols and rob them. So I did. I walked into a Hollywood Video, was very careful about it, didn't want to scare them, but I had to make the threat real. I didn't touch anybody, didn't hurt anybody, didn't carry a weapon, but I did intentionally, knowingly break the law. Didn't do it because I was feeding a drug habit or anything else. I did it because I needed baby formula and diapers. It's no excuse, but that's why I did it. The money stopped coming in. I was a godless human being. I was prideful, didn't know anything about any services that I could go to for help. And they shut the power off at my apartment. And I panicked. And in that robbery, I got about 20 bucks cash. The rest was almost all checks. So this was before ATM or debit cards even became a real thing. And because I had crossed that boundary line, right? It's like, uh-oh, okay, yeah, now you're a criminal, and that didn't do any good. I did it again at a different Hollywood Video. Same result, a little bit more cash. Uh, then I realized, okay, Hollywood Videos don't pay, and we're going to be on the street. And I went to everybody that I knew. Like I said in the beginning, I went to Daddy Warbucks, my dad. I went to everybody that I knew to say, could you help us out? Just make rent. And everybody said, hey, we have our own problems, right? Including my own family, quite literally standing in the rain. Uh, he said, grow up. You don't have money problems. Uh, you have maturity problems. And you're going to have to take care of your son for the rest of his life and your life. So figure it out. I'm not giving you a dime. And they never really have. And I wouldn't accept it anyway at this point. So making the decisions that I did, I committed a series of robberies, same MO, and ended up being wanted by the FBI. I was on their top 10 wanted list. This was in 1998. And they had thought that I was somebody that had come out of California and migrated through Nevada up to the Portland, Washington area, so the high Pacific Northwest. And this individual not only was committing armed robberies, but homicides were involved. Now, the very last thing that I did, because I wasn't making any money in these retail shops, is decided I'll disguise myself and walk in and rob a bank. And I did. It's still there. Key Bank on Northwest 185th Avenue in Hillsboro, Oregon. Consequently, right across the street, essentially, from the Hollywood video that I was working at when it got robbed several years later. And I walked right in broad daylight. And I had a note. Um, thought I was being smart. Didn't have any idea the actual risk that I was putting myself in. Uh, when I walked in, a lady stood up. You know, think of your classic school marm, principal, uh, lady who sits at the front row at church. Just a really amazing human being. So this was a marquee store, bank, key bank, with 11 teller stations. And so I'm going to paint the scene. When I walked in, the far left three out of the 11 were the ones that were open. So 8 teller stations are just empty. They weren't busy. And in the far back, a lady stood up. The moment I walked in, she stood up and she said, "I'll help you right over here, sir." So she took me to the far right hand one. So the 3 are at the other end of the counter, probably 50 to 60 feet away. And here I am by myself with her. She came out from behind a desk, not as a teller, but as a manager, and came to say, "I'll help you right here, sir." And I slid across a note. And on the note, it said, "I'm not here to hurt anybody, but if you make any noise, hit any buttons, you're the first one to die. Give me the money." And she did. And she cleaned out the drawer and put it all in a bag and looked at me and said, "Please leave." I'll never forget the way she said it. I'll never forget the navy sweater that she had on with the gold cross that I could see very clearly. And that her move, that right there saved me from, I wouldn't be talking to you. I'd still be sitting in federal prison. She didn't clear out the till. She put exactly $500 in it, into this envelope, because it wasn't more than that. If it was 501 penny, the minimum sentence federally is 35 years. I ended up serving just about 10 years in prison. And I kid you not, the last day of May 1998, my son was 4.5 months old. I'm on the run. They don't know who I am, but understand I've committed a series of robberies. I did get enough money through the course of those robberies, and left selling cars to become an apartment renter. So I negotiated to go to work to rent apartments for this large apartment complex to offset my rent so we would have a place to live. And then I ended up, in the course of the next few weeks, destroying the teeth in my mouth because I ended up getting lockjaw, TMJ, from the stress of doing what I did. And I'm a former Eagle Scout. I wasn't raised to do the things that I did, and I knew what I was doing was wrong. I made the choices that I had to make, thinking it would be the best that I could possibly be, and God intervened. So on that morning, and I'm not joking, the record is there. I turned myself in on April 1st, 1998. And the reason I did is because I was overwhelmed with a feeling that was so strong. It was as if a warm, weighted, heavy blanket was draped over me from behind, and it was so heavy, it quite literally dropped me to my knees. And I heard a voice. It wasn't an audible thing like you'd hear from speakers, but very clearly in my mind, I heard these words: "If you ever want to be a dad, you will turn yourself in today." And that day I walked myself into a jail and said, I'm the guy you're looking for. I had to convince them who I was. They had no idea who I was. And because of that, because of me turning myself in, because of the lady behind the counter that only put $500 from a legal standpoint, I was in the best possible position from making absolutely horrific decisions to be able to get out and be a dad. And so I served my time. Um, I was not a victim inside there. I wasn't somebody who was falsely incarcerated. I knew what I did and I deserved to do it. So, from a failure perspective, I did almost 10 years in prison and maximum security, and then worked my way to, basically a work camp, minimum security. Learned a lot about myself. Didn't do the typical things that people did inside. I used my time instead of did my time. At no point was I reading less than 7 books. Stopped writing down all the titles of the books that I was reading. I had to just absorb everything and finally try to get to the answer of how could I cross that line? How could I even conceptualize something like that? And I went through 20 years of therapy after prison, uh, tens of thousands of dollars on it to try to answer that question of what is it about me that could cross a line that people wouldn't even actually consider. And I found I got to the answer of that. But what I learned about myself in those uh, that journey is failure at any level um, is going to teach you more about yourself than anything else. The world is what the world is. It's full of the best people on earth that will give you the shirt off their back, and the worst people on earth that'll take the shirt off of yours. And that's when and I was actually in prison. That experience that I had with God led me to opening the Bible and reading it cover to cover. I won't tell anybody, what I've read or the scriptures that I've memorized, but that really formatted for me like, oh my God, this actually is real. And that's where the baseline, and people have said, oh, jailhouse religion. I'm like, okay, then it is, but it's stuck. And it defined me there where I considered who I was, the decisions that I made, getting up to Olympic level in sports, being at the pinnacle level in Boy Scouts of America at a very young age, having all kinds of accolades. None of it meant anything. None of it meant a thing. What taught me more about anything else is how I treat other people and the choices that I make when nobody's looking. That's who I am. How I see people in my mind, in my heart, and the choices that I make when I'm by myself. And
Jay,
yeah,
that was a lot, man. I gotta say, I'm here listening, and every single time you're saying each sentence, it's like, is this real? Am I listening to this right now? Oh my God, what an experience! What a life! The fact that you're here to even talk about it, I mean, that's definitely quite an accomplishment. And yes, I believe too that through struggles, through bad choices, if you are a wise person, you'll learn from that and become a better person from that. So yeah, no, definitely agree with you 100%. Stone, I see your reactions a little. I don't know if you want to add something. Um, Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey Jay. Wow. Um, so I would say that the most in my life, some of the most amazing people I've met, or damn, bro, I'm emotional for you. What a ride! Some of the most amazing people I've met were in Alcoholic Anonymous rooms, and God, I like I don't know why, but I like felt that whole story. And the people with a conscience that tap into, understand, and listen to that feeling have an enormous sense of growth in their timeline. And you know, pain is pain is a hell of a pressure cooker, and when that pain comes from a divine consciousness that you don't quite understand, that feeling, that ick of making bad choices, whether it be for the misguided or right reasons, it's painful. And I can only imagine, and like the empathetic side of me is like bawling inside. um
Yeah, what's you guys at some point should talk to TJ about his experience of it all. He
I
was
just think,
almost 10 years old when I walked out of prison.
oh my goodness, I
And
can't
you
even.
want to talk about the pressure cooker of pain. He was barely 1 years old. And because I was locked up, his mom, 19, single mom, doing everything she could to survive, ended up hooking up with a guy that was very, very bad. And they abused my son. The guy went to prison because of what he did to my son. And me being as a dad, especially unpacking the severity of what it means to be a dad. It's not just putting, food in the refrigerator and keeping the lights on. The spiritual covering, the massive responsibility of what it means to be the father. As I'm learning that in the Bible and I'm stuck isolated from my family, hearing that my son, he was abused so bad that he didn't talk until he was 4 years old. And he's around today. We're very, you can find out what that experience was like for him. Um, and I'll tell you the only reason that either of us are even remotely put together is because of the power of God. So yeah, the pressure cooker of pain. This is not a joke. I had breakfast cereal with. I mean, I sat across breakfast with serial killers. That is not a joke. My cellmate for the first 4 years of me being incarcerated was a serial killer,
I
and
can.
it's I didn't. I was like I said, I wasn't a victim. Um, Consequently, just so people understand, if you were to go back and look for in the FBI, they called me the polite bandit. Um, I never physically hurt anybody. Now, you talk about get into the pool and water polo and some of sports. Yeah, a lot of people got hurt within those areas, but I'm not the violent person, right? It broke my heart. It wasn't who I was made to be. And finally, when I came back to God, uh, that's where the synergy of okay, life is about a lot of things, but most importantly, it's kind of about the wake. We're all our own vessel. We come in alone, we'll go out alone. We travel through this plane of existence and we leave a wake of experience, a wake of emotion. And I saw that who I was for me, the decisions that I wanted to do for Jay, um, died the day I turned myself in. And that's when I realized moving forward, I'm really just going to be an agent of God. And every decision that I've made since then is for the betterment of my family, my community. I'm a benefactor of it. All of FML, people that are close into my sphere have said, "Hey, Sean and I would be much better off if we took all the money we invested into this and just kept stacking our XRP bags." But God compelled me to do it. I've said it many, 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 many times. It may sound trite. I don't care. When you guys hear me say a very heavy message of family is everything, now you know why.
100%. Stone, I see your hand up. I wanted to actually give a chance to Corn. He came up. I don't know if Corn wants to say hello a
Hold
little
on one
bit.
second. Let me get this out, and then
Okay,
if he
okay, go
has a
ahead.
question, he can put his hand up. Get in line, Corn. So what I was saying, what I was alluding to, or what I was getting to, is in those rooms where you have the newcomer walking in complete despair with no idea of how they're going to live through the next day. You have these. Um, Staples in the community, or these figures that have already been through it, And without the power of those leaders that have been in the depths of the suicidal trenches, showing those newcomers the way out, they never would make it. And so there's a story of that's told in Alcoholics Anonymous a lot, that that newcomer is in a pit of despair, and he's down in the lowest he's ever been. And the old timer comes walking by and sees him struggling down in the hole, and he jumps down there and with him. And the newcomer says, "Well, why'd you do that? Now we're both stuck." And he says, "Yeah, but I've been here before and I know the way out.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is you. This is you. And this is why you went through that pain. That's why you went through so many struggles, because you can't learn how to be a good person in a university. You can't learn how to navigate these emotions and these unthinkable choices if you've never lived through them. So I can appreciate you so much more for the struggle that you put yourself through, that a power greater than us allowed you to live through, and become a leader that you are. So it's very, very powerful. I appreciate you telling the story, and not only that, but with so much humility and honesty. I mean, it hits hard, bud. I love it. I'm sorry you went through it, but I think that everybody that you run into now will benefit from those experiences that you can't create. You have to live through. You can't fathom it, the character that comes from that depth, of struggle, and then rebirth. So phenomenal, man, phenomenal.
Thanks, brother. Well, and you guys have heard a lot. If you followed me, um, I can be a very polarizing individual. The way that I talk, some people sound like, man, you sound like the most narcissistic, arrogant guy. I'm like, hey, check it out. Here's what I'll tell everybody. I know what I know. I will say that I know what I know if I know it. If I don't know it, I'm going to say I don't know. I know a whole lot about a couple of very niche things. World class knowledge, highest levels that you can ever get to, most specialized rooms, resulting in helicopter skiing. I'm talking the pinnacle of the pinnacle of the pinnacle. And I didn't like what I saw there. But there's nothing about me that's special except God. He didn't have to put that warm blanket on me. I could have kept running and gunning and destroyed my entire lineage. I don't know why. I didn't choose him. He chose me. But you guys have heard along the way, if you've been close to me push a message of family is everything. Now you know why. You've also heard me say lots of times, and I put this message out there intentionally, is the coolest cats have walked down the darkest alleys. And that's exactly what you just said, Stone. And I'll tell everybody here, if you are a person who lives a squeaky clean, perfect life, you've never failed, you've never felt any hardships that make you question even continuing on, man, that is a scary position to be in if you're an adult, because your metal hasn't been tested. And the people that I trust the most are the ones who have had their teeth kicked in and climbed themselves back out of that hole that Stone was talking about. It's also why I struggle with the scammers, because I lived for almost at this point, 1/5 of my life around the world's best scammers, con artists. And I will tell you that the way most people think about individuals coming out of a prison system or being incarcerated, 99% of the time, the way you think about them is right. Most people don't, the majority of them go back within 4 years to do more time than they did. And for a worse crime, it's called recidivism. It's not entirely their fault. There's a system there. We don't need to get into that. But unless you've been tested, unless you've fallen down, unless you've pulled yourself back up, you don't know what you're capable of. You don't know how strong you are. You don't know the power that is inside of you until you resolve it within yourself for whatever the reason may be, whatever the obstacle is in front of you. I've overcome chemical dependencies. Whatever it may be is overcomable. And I'm telling you, whether it's financial, addiction, circumstantial, whatever you're going through, it's overcomable. And I'll end this here. The reason why I posted what I did up above is because the first pass that you go through it, you're like, okay. First of all, you got to get beyond, is this guy telling the truth? From the moment I started FML, I came into the very first space. It was trench warfare, December 15th, 2024. And I was like, hey guys, my name's Justin. I'm starting a token. And everybody's like, what? Here's my LinkedIn profile. And I thought, that was just the way you do business. But what's posted up above, if you read it, and I would recommend everybody do, you're going to see down there's two things. One of them is public trust security clearance through the Department of Energy. That's federal security clearance that I had to get to do work at the Bonneville Power Administration in Portland, Oregon. The next thing, if you read down there, is CJIS security clearance. That's Criminal Justice Information System. So I remediated, meaning I took out a district attorney's 21-year-old database. So everything from parking tickets to murder, all of those records, including every single prescription of a controlled substance that's given to inmates, both male and female, in the entire state of Oregon. I took that old system out and put the new system in. It's connected to the FBI, it's connected to Interpol, it's connected to Five Eyes. And I had to interface with all of those systems. And they had to look at me and go, wait, this guy, his past? So I want everybody to understand the receipts, the sauce that is out there. This isn't to showcase me. This is to eliminate any excuses in you. I'm a 5-time convicted felon, and I've got security clearances at the highest level of federal government. Now, organizationally, structurally, I'm a consultant for FML. When you get into the banking industry, so I worked for the largest financial corporation up until November of last year. As a full-time employee, started out as a consultant doing fintech in the background. It was working for that company that it was somebody else that walked into one of my meetings, a high-ranking executive, a security executive, and mentioned compliance, the company's compliance with ISO 222. The only other place that I'd ever heard of that was a QAnon guy that I really loved, special forces, that had been telling me since like 2016, you got to buy XRP, you got to buy XRP, you got to buy XRP. Every time I interface, talk with this guy, XRP, 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 XRP. And I shined him on. Remember, my dad's a financial investor. My youngest brother, who's also founder on FML, was a broker before he left it to go over and fight, in the desert after 9/11. We came from, I didn't want to have anything to do with crypto. And roll forward all these years later, I'm in a meeting. I don't have any crypto. We're not even interested in it, right? Just like everybody knew the internet was a scam. Nobody would put their credit card or debit card on the internet in the beginning because we were smarter than that. And if you don't have it now, you're scammy. If you can't do business on the internet, there's something wrong with you. We've matured. And when I heard that guy say it, that's when I went and started looking. And my research lasted for 2 years. We didn't start buying until 2019. I ended up getting 2 additional full-time jobs working from home. For 5 years, I had no less than 2 full-time 40-hour-a-week jobs, almost the whole time, for over 3, well, just about 4 years. So 12 calendar months in that 5-year period, 5.5-year period, I had 3 full-time jobs. Those 2 other 6-figure jobs, 6 figures. I was making more money than most CEOs. All of that money was going directly into XRP and utility tokens because the future. And it was on December 2nd, 2024. My youngest son, so my oldest boy and my youngest boy with 4 girls in between. Talk about God trying to show me, keep going, keep going, keep going. Both those boys were born on the same day, 27 years apart. And like 17 days old, my wife Sean and I are sitting, 10 feet from where I'm talking to you from, in our den at 2 o'clock in the morning. She's breastfeeding him, and she's been telling me for years, stop doing what you're doing for corporate America and open up a business. So she'd been hearing from God for years, just like me, walk away, walk away, walk away, take the talents and put it in something else. And sitting at the den at 2 o'clock in the morning, she came up with the idea of Florida Man Landscaping. And why? Because I had been paying my landscaper exclusively, and if he wants to keep mowing my lawn, I'm only going to pay him an XRP. That's the deal. And so I went out to Kendall. You all can talk to Kendall. Most of you know him. Some of you know the story. For those who don't, he's on X. He's one of our founding members. That's why we launched this, because he got out of that truck that same Monday morning, December 2nd, 2024. It was a Monday morning early for us. He came over later in that same morning, same Monday, and mowed our lawn. And I walked out and said, I've got this crazy idea. I want to drop a meme coin to be utility. And he opened up his phone with tears in his eyes and showed me that the $40 every other week that I had been paying him for the last 3 years had turned into be about $75,000 worth of value in XRP. And that's what we launched our token on. Is we're already doing this. The history is there. Anybody can go do it, but we're going to launch this token to secure the name FML. There's a reason for that. It's written down and formalized in our articles of organization. It means forgive me, Lord. And we're taking back the acronym, and we're also capitalizing that it's already in everybody's mind. But go ahead, Uga.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say we got Corn here. I wanted to give him a chance before we go too far into the next topic. So, if you don't mind, Corn, welcome to KYD.
I'll keep it brief. Uga, thank you for doing the Know Your Dev segment every Sunday. Really appreciate these conversations with the developers of these projects. And Stone, good morning to you. And Jay, I just gotta say, I love you even more now, man. Your story is very impactful and powerful for me personally, because I know going through circumstances, your mindset changes. And so when that happens, um, we we feel an obligation to God to serve others. It's such a weird dynamic, because we're always on our own path, and then when something happens, God puts us on his path. And so I just want to say thank you to you for sharing your story today.
It's my pleasure. I heard some static on my XRP TTM account, so I'm pivoting over to this one, guys, just so I
Yeah,
don't rug and lose the space. I want to honor your time, Angel. You're at the hour.
yeah. No. I still got a little bit more if you're good
Hey,
with
man,
it.
I'll go as long as you want to go. I'm just
Okay.
trying to be honorable of your time.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. So if you want, let's do something quickly, right? I wanted to actually pick somebody from the crowd to get 10 XRP worth of FML. I don't know if Stone or Corn might want to help with that. Let's get somebody 10 XRP worth of XML right now. We can pick somebody. I can send it after the show. But then I have a few questions for you, Jay. Again,
Yeah, fire away.
we'll try to make them quick so we can go
I'll
quick
keep
back
my
and forward
answers
here.
brief. I'll keep my answers
Please,
short.
please. Okay, so in simple terms, what is it that you actually building with FML?
The solution to possibly being debanked or deplatformed with XRP built on the XRPL. So in business, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, what real world problem are you actually trying to fix?
So the we saw in previous administrations, they were anti-crypto. And there was a lot of deplatforming and debanking that took place because of political ideologies. I categorically disagree with that. Okay. Politics and the winds of change blow in and they blow out. It might be your guy or gal one season and somebody else is another. When I married my wife, she was a 5th generation Democrat. So we see politics as, a choice of life, but not the identity. But politics actually has a very powerful influence in everything, as we saw. The Trump family was debanked. So what we bring is 5 different solutions with FML to those 2 problems. We've got the token XRP and FML on the backside, so you've got a currency that can be used. We're looking for regular clarity in the Clarity Act to be formalized, so we have long-standing positioning. But I think everybody understands now, short of a nuclear, war that wipes out the internet, XRP and some of these digital assets aren't going anywhere. You can speculate on whether there'll be any value in the future in them or not, but the technology is not going anywhere. It's live, it's decentralized, it's out. So we built on that, knowing that short of the internet being shut down, it will survive. Then we stood up our own cloud space. So we're a competitor with AWS and IBM Azure. And so we did that intentionally too, not only to save people a lot of money, something when you get Amazon rack space, you're paying for technical debt. Somebody else's R&D development, you have to help pay for that, whether you know it or not. So we wanted to do that. Now, what that does is having our own cloud space means that if somebody is doing something in business and they take a position, say, of spiritual Jesus Christ, right? And Amazon or somebody says, hey, we don't like that because that organization said, we like Kamala or Biden or Obama or, JD Vance or Trump or Bush or whoever. If you're in our cloud space, we're not going to deplatform you. Then we've got the ERP. That's the back-end business solution. So if you're going to run a real-world business, how you manage your data and everything from receivables, accountables, payables, inventory control, HR, marketing, data warehousing of your clients and your employees. So everything that when you go and you get a job and they're like, this is your login credentials, that system in the background that you would log into as an employee is what we provide. It's called Odoo. It's the #1 ERP enterprise open source platform on Earth. Companies like DARPA, IBM, Volkswagen, Heineken, Shell, British Petroleum, AMD, Advanced Microdynamics, the chip maker, they all use Odoo. And so FML became an enterprise partner with Odoo. So we're an enterprise business partner with Odoo. And our developers have taken it and connected it to the XRPL. So doing business from point of sale, you might have a coffee shop. Heck, you might have a little kiosk on the side of the road, and you're using our tech to take either fiat, debit, credit, or crypto at the point of sale. Additionally, you can use XRP or any side chain as a form of currency for payroll. It's all interconnected. So the ERP system gives you a uncorruptible, open source, protected and air gapped from the main net, meaning the standard internet and standard rack space, where you could run your business and not ever worry about having to move it because your business now doesn't align with where other businesses are going. And that's pretty much the key reason why we wanted to launch this, is because the problem of being deplatformed, they just give people 30 days notice and you've got to move your entire business data set. And I'm telling you, it's impossible. It's a death shot if you have to do a data migration without a lot of time to plan for it. And then the ultimate, so we've got a line of business in the consultancy. That's the fourth pillar. And that's where we've got a Microsoft guru, former senior developer, that when nobody else had the answers, including the senior developers at Microsoft, they call these guys their fellows. As one of our developers, former military signal group developers. These are code breakers for the US military. They're our devs. So we have a really, really powerful development team for FML that connected Odoo to the XRPL. So now we've got the ability and the technical acumen to protect the environment, house the environment, scale the environment, and not put anybody at risk of ever being deplatformed and debanked. And then the final pillar, which is still in the process of coming online. And like I had said in the beginning, my background, my family's background is the very tippy top of financial advisors, specifically financial advisors at Wells Fargo. And so my youngest sibling, Spencer, who's a founder of FML, is retiring from the military after 20 years of service. He left financial advisor industry to go be in the military as an active service to the country. He is now retiring and coming back and working on renewing his licenses to be the broker and the senior premier advisor for FML. So our target is at the end of 2026, we will have our own boutique investment firm. So MSB, FINRA, SPDI licensure, where we will be our own off-ramp, on-ramp, be able to custody both fiat and digital currencies with financial advice. We can't give it yet, but by the end of the year, we will have an entire, under one umbrella, the FML umbrella, an ecosystem that's air-gapped completely from risk of being debanked or deplatformed. And then we're bringing big rigs, trucks.
That was not quick at all, but it's okay. I'll take it. quick thing, right? When people look back at FML, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, what do you hope they say about you as a builder?
His wife was very fortunate to have him as a consultant because she's the owner. I'm not on any of it by name or identity. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. If everything would have disappeared tomorrow, right? There's no token, there's no platform, there's no momentum. What would you still stand on?
Oh, my faith. If it all folded, so yeah, and without being cheeky, the legacy that I would want people to have in memory of me was he was authentic and cared about other people. And for FML, if it folded, we built it so it's not reliant upon crypto. Crypto is a feature for the future.
Yeah.
But if it completely folded, I'd go back to work and look for the next opportunity. I'd probably go to build something else. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just that's it. Keep building, keep building. That's what we're meant to do, right? So
Yeah.
listen, I know this is crypto. What we do here in KYD is showcase the developers so others can actually see what is happening behind the scenes, right? If someone is listening right now and they're unsure whether to support you or not, what would you tell them directly?
If they're okay, so I didn't hear the last part of your question. If they want to support us or if they want to build for themselves.
No. If someone is listening to this space right now, KYD, they're actually are unsure on whether to support you, right? What would you tell them to kind of change their mind?
Oh, the proof is in the pudding. Those who see and believe in the beginning are the ones who were rewarded the most. So I would say that FML as a token is going to be one of those things that everybody just has in their pocket. Of course, I own FML because we're not going anywhere. So I would say if you've heard this, then you'll know there's something of resolve within me that's not going to quit. I've got the acumen to bring it to market because I've done it. The reason I'm doing it is not for my wife and I, it's for at this point about 350 families out there of real holders. And you can see that in our tokenomics, as people call it. We don't have any bots. We've never used them. We don't fake anything. It just is what it is. What you see is what you get. If you don't see it now, you will eventually. In the very beginning, I think it was from that first space that we went into, somebody said, "You guys sound like the Betty Crocker coin of crypto." And so we went out and we bought that website URL. And really, that's it. FML with the name is the juxtaposition of when you see it. If you laugh, that's great. If it repels you, cool. Eventually, you're going to realize, behind it is actually really good people doing something really important. So if you don't see it now, you will eventually. The way that it was built and set up is to scale the token value exponentially with every client that we bring on board. So that's what I would say. I've never asked anybody to buy the token because I think they're going to see it of themselves. And it's one of those things where I would rather be called to sit at the table than just walk up and claim a chair. So if
Well,
we don't
Jay,
earn it, yeah.
yeah, what we do here again, KYD, is for people to actually know exactly who the builder is. Now that they hear your story, now that they understand why you're building, how can they support you if they wanted to support you? What are the ways that they can actually show you their support?
Well, if you need business help, reach out. We'll help support you. That's supporting us and supporting you. It's a relationship. If you're talking, if somebody wants to just materially support us, I would say show up where we show up at. I mean, if you buy the token, it's going to benefit you. There's less than 1.8% of the token left, so you can still get a little bit. But will you be able to get life changing amount? You'll maybe. Supporting me. I'm building this for you. We don't have any NFTs yet, but let me tell you this. Okay, here's a direct question.
Yeah.
Coming out soon, it will be a bunch of NFTs. Buy those NFTs. That will support us for sure. Buy our merch.
Okay.
Yeah.
The token? No?
Yeah, absolutely. Buy the token, guys. Okay, first, I was never going to do it. I'm going to do it now. Hey, everybody. I really think it's a wise investment for my family. I can't give you advice, but for my family, we have probably $40,000+ just invested in FML alone. We only allocated 1% of the entire token stack to my wife and I. Out of 100 million tokens, we only have 1 million, never spent a single one. And all the rest that we own, everything that we've been paying out for the development and everything, we purchased like everybody else. And not in the beginning, right? Where it's, 50 XRP and you get 1 million FML. We've been DCAing from the very beginning, including yesterday or the day before I bought more FML. So we're investing in it because we see it as a really, really powerful opportunity. And I would say, I hope other people see that as an opportunity for your own selves. If you want to support us, yeah.
Sounds good. You already heard him. Follow his other accounts that are in here. Also, I got 2 more speakers in here. Guys, we're almost at the end of the show. I want to give you guys a chance if you want to say something. Island Ghost, Miss Stephanie, and Cookie. Ladies first.
I just came up to say good morning. It was a really good space. So I'm glad you're doing this Sundays. Hi, Uga Tiger. It's been a minute. Good
I
to hear
know.
you.
Thank you for stopping by. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's been really good listening to Jay and you guys. So you threw me a mic, so I had to take it. So I just came up to say hi. So.
I appreciate you. Hey, Cookie, are you?
I'll jump in on Sundays from now on.
So I'll see you next Sunday. My friend Cookie, I know you're like the biggest farmer out here. We have FML. What they stand up? FML, give me one quick. Let me see what Cookie wants to
That's Shauna. That's not me.
Oh, hello.
That's my
Shauna.
wife behind the FML account with her hand up.
Well, welcome to KYD, Shauna. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I don't want to interrupt the jump the line here. I know that there was other people waiting to
This is
show
your
their
show.
support
You
and
know that,
love.
right?
Yes, I do. But
All right.
it's about my husband at this point. I just wanted to say, from my perspective, the emotional story that he tells is 100% true, and I have had the privilege of, the original shock and awe and emotion when I learned it myself. Um, and then everything that goes with it, and his grit and his never give up spirit and his true faith in God. And that is why, we are here, is God led us here. And we are building not for just ourselves, for our children and for other families. um, that's why, people support us. Not that you have to support us, not that you should support us, but we are here for everybody else, and making sure that the business, and you can hear my kids in the background, sorry, the business and the token and everything is done the right way, by the gold standard of business, to benefit others, not just ourselves. So that's why we're here. And thank you, Uga, for having us. And thank you, Stone, for co-hosting and giving your emotional feedback earlier. That was really touching. Thank you, guys.
Wow. Thank you, Shauna. Cookie, this is your last chance because after you is going to be FML closing statements, and then we'll go out.
There you go.
Great morning.
Yeah, well, afternoon for me, buddy. I've already been done the rounds for the football coaching for the kids, and now just about to start cooking a nice roast dinner for the family. So, Jay, been really good to sort of listening to what I have listened to so far. It's nice to know that people are building stuff away from Web3 and incorporating Web3 in the project. The one thing that I've always sort of thought around FML is the liquidity side of things, and how it can be better improved, and what the pricing level the token's at, with knowing what you've got being built on the back end as well. It does strike me as a project that can go similar to what Reaper's done. I have my reservations around where there is like a lower liquidity situation for that, for people getting into it. You tend to see people sort of FOMO into tokens pretty hard, as we saw with Reaper recently. So is it on the roadmap for you guys to sort of shore up liquidity over time? It's not something you can fix in a heartbeat, that's for sure.
So, yeah, that's a great question, Cookie. Thank you. Our intention with the token was it was a chicken or the egg kind of a conundrum. So on December 2nd, I'm going to make this really fast, Angel. On December 2nd, my wife came up with the idea. She's like, Florida Man Landscaping as the enterprise business, as the name. And she's like, there's no way. Think of fart coin, boob coin, Pepe coin. Like there's no possible way that FML, the ticker, is not going to, the cash tag is not going to be already taken. And it was taken on every other chain except the XRPL. There wasn't an FML token before us. Then I went and looked up FloridaManLandscaping.com.net and all of it, and it was available. And I just saw it as God had these things prepped for us before we got here. And we dropped it because we had to get the name. But from the moment, and I want everybody to hear this, from the very moment, December 14th, 2024, at 11:11 p.m. is when we dropped. We have put zero energy or thought into the token, except for marketing. So we knew we had to build up a marketing backlog of images and everything else to tell the origin story and put on merch and stuff like that because of what was coming. The FML token is a placeholder. It's a pin. It's so we could own it. It's like we have to go build what it's going to do, But what you see right now, we have put intentionally, zero effort into anything that would make a successful meme coin. We have not asked anybody to do anything with the liquidity. We ourselves haven't done anything with the liquidity. We don't do any of that because we're not focused. Well, we don't have time. On the background, we're building the business. But I said to my team, once our onboarding is just working like clockwork on the business side, that I'm going to come back and kick the patootie out of every other meme coin in meme coin space on any chain. Because we're going to be out of supply very close. We got less than 2% left. Our onboarding clients are going to take it, at 1,000 USD minimum a clip. So when you start looking at it like that, I think that what we have intention for the fun of the token, we haven't even started. We've put no effort into it, and it shows. So that to have the success and be on the front page of First Ledger for 10 and a half months or whatever it's been, and in the top 10 several times, that's just been organic. We haven't done anything to do it. It looks bad just simply because we launched it and put it on a shelf. We don't come into spaces and promote our token and say buy our stuff. We never do it. We just talk about what we're building. However, Corn, I will tell you that once this thing is running and humming, where I can turn my attention to the fun, we have 4 different YouTube spaces that are coming out. They're all going to promote the token. We're going to Vegas with FinTech Management Limited. We're going to showcase at Vegas how the token is actual real world utility, and people will be able to use it, make purchases with their own XRPL meme coins. So we'll showcase the tech at Vegas, but that's when we're going to start doing massive token stuff like 10,000 XRP giveaway that's legit, being managed by a third party. That's coming up, and that's stuff like that's going to put us on the roadmap, I think, from a token perspective. But again, it will be in the frame, in the mind, at least if we're moderately successful. People who come into this space, people will talk about FML like, oh, they're connected to a business. So you want to hold them just because, it's kind of like owning a stock or something. It's just going to go up over time. We don't ever look for the moon. Like, we're not trying to be a Box or a Kekius or, something that shoots up to 10 million market cap and then fades into obscurity and goes away. I think over time, people are going to see that FML as a meme coin is just something fun and good to have in their wallet because of who we are and what we're doing in real life. So expect more about the token. We are going to engage the degen culture in ways that the degens want, meaning 5 different tiers of NFTs paying from real world business. That's coming online here at Vegas. So lots of stuff will come in that will generate I would guess you could say the hype behind the token itself. But the token was put into place to be used as technology, not to be a meme coin. So we said that, and that's kind of like a death kill. When we launched, I said, and I published this on videos and recordings, within minutes of us launching, I reiterated to everybody that was there, and recorded it for posterity, thank God, because now people can hear him. He's just not saying something. I said at that time, we are not here to be a meme coin. We are not on X for the degen culture so we can be a successful meme coin, but we are honored to be where we are. And we are humbled by the response from the degen community. We respect the value, the visionaries that are in this space. And we want to take what we've learned vocationally as a team and bring that acumen to the people in this space who may or desperately need it. The business acumen, the technical acumen, the ability to bring an idea to market for profit. So I think the token will blow up. I absolutely believe wholeheartedly, you'll hear me say it here, that by the end of 2026, at least on the First Ledger page, FML will dominate by a large margin. And then everybody will say a little asterisk, well, they're not really a meme coin.
Jay, I think the you almost got to the answer. The question was, are you going to be using these NFTs or any other mechanism to generate funds into the liquidity pool to shore up that ratio? And it was from
Oh,
Crypto.
yeah. So we've got the best minds that I can think of in crypto that are working with us for that specific reason. You guys, the love that you've shown, Corn, even saying that, right? It comes
Cookie.
with a little bit of anxiety and trepidation. It's like, how do you say in a public space after what you've heard from me and say, Jay, your tokenomics are crap? But they are. Everybody can see it. We can see it. We know it. I believe that very soon, very quickly, people are going to go, oh my God, not only is their liquidity great, it's the best that's out there by ratio. And we have investors on the background that we have held off saying, no, don't. I mean, they want a one side in with 100K. There's more than three of them. They want to invest in the project because they see what's coming in real business. And we've held them off for over a year. This is no BS. Over a year and said, don't do anything yet because otherwise you're just going to have a bunch of people that'll just take your liquidity and run with it. So we are definitely focused on building up the token. And ultimately, here's the reason why, because when we launched, we said those who see it in the beginning will be rewarded the most. We launched with the token. We're using the XRPL because we want to reward the families that essentially got priced out for legacy real life change when XRP went from 50 cents to over $3. If you are a family living paycheck to paycheck, it's very difficult to buy enough XRP that will actually impact your grandchildren, unless you hold on to it, for 50 years. But we're doing this for families. That's why. And the token is the reason. The FML token is the North Star. And those who are paying real close attention that are out there may listen in the beginning. I've heard it once, only once. They said, Jay, you're mirroring what Ripple is doing. I'm like, yeah, that's a successful business model. And what Ripple is doing is founded on hundreds of years of business best practices. Their mergers and acquisitions and the way they're building. Ripple didn't care. They just kept building through the SEC case. They didn't care. Look what the token is doing. XRP is a token itself, I would say, compared to what they could do or what it should be doing, it's very undervalued. And much like FML, you can look at it and go, wow, this looks a little odd. FML is a token that was launched and set on a shelf. But we're about ready to take it off. So stay tuned. If you don't own it, it would be a good time to get some now. As well as it's a 1,111 FML purchased before July 4th gives you an entry into the 10,000 XRP giveaway. So yeah, lots of reasons, more on that, but I don't want to talk about that type of stuff here. Back to you, Angel.
Well, sounds great, man. I appreciate you sharing. Any closing remarks from the speakers on the stage?
Yeah, I appreciate how vulnerable you were and open and honest about your background. Some of that story I hadn't heard yet, so I thought that was excellent. And best of luck to you, your family, FML. I'll be here to help support you however I can.
Love you, brother.
All right, people. So tonight wasn't about the price. Tonight was not about the chart. Tonight was not about any promises. In reality, it was about presence. KYD exists for one reason. So the community knows who's building, not an avatar, not a logo, a person. You heard the motives, you heard the vision, you heard the responsibility. Now the decision is yours. Jay, thank you very much for being in this space, stepping forward, sharing your story. That takes courage in this space, especially here in KYD. We appreciate you, my friend. And as I say to everyone, I'll see you on the next one.
Dios en bodega, brother.
Know your damn, know the code, know the mind. No shortcuts here, just blood and time. From the spark to the shit, from the dark to the shine. Know your damn, you be counting the lines. Know your damn, know the hands that create. Not the hype, not the age, just the wait. If it runs tomorrow. It was built last night. Know your damn, yeah, we heard this right. Late nights, empty rooms, screens glow blue. Pressure on the clock, but the man stay true. From ideas on play, but the systems that scale. Every failure, lesson, every win, leave a trail. They don't see the hours when the chat go quiet, when the doubt get loud, but the focus stay right. We don't copy waves, we design a tide. Every block locked in with the future inside. Know your dev, know the code, know the grind. Every scar on the bill, tell a story in time. From the first commit to the final deploy. Know your dev, yeah, we build not noise. No suits in the room, just takers and why. Turn risk into structure, stress in the fire. Open minds, open ledgers, truth to the work. If the system stand tall, you know who did the dirt. This ain't overnight, this is his in the cut. Trust turns slow, never forced, never rushed. When the lights come on and the product go live, there's a piece of the border still coded inside. Not a headline, not a trend. This is humans who build what the future depends. If it runs, if it scales, if it stands the test. Put respect on the dev, yeah, remember the rest. Know your dev, know the source, know the flame. Same ledger, same, it's a different name. Fade to black, but the work still low. Next episode.